Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Welcome. Today, Iran expressed its desire to soon prepare for full diplomatic relations with Egypt after having been suspended for 25 years. Meanwhile, a Tehran City Council agreed to rename the Khalid Istanbuli Street in the city. He was one of the assassins of former Egyptian President Anwar al-Sadat. The Egyptian Foreign Minister Ahmed Meher said that Cairo has not yet taken any decision about resuming full relations with Tehran. A group of Egyptian veiled women took to the streets of Cairo, protesting the religious ban in France. They criticized France's planned law to ban the Islamic hijab in public schools. The demonstrators said that the ban of the hijab is another part of a wide-scale step in implementing French racism, and that the hijab is not a symbol, but a duty on every Muslim woman. A source from the French police said that anti-terror police arrested nearly 30 Islamists today, suspected of recruiting French nationals to fight with the Chechens. Pakistan and India agreed to initiate comprehensive peace talks between the two countries, beginning next month. The Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf and Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee were pleased with their meeting yesterday and with the recent discussions between the two sides. At the end of a South Asian summit on regional cooperation, the foreign ministers of Pakistan and India announced that the two countries agreed that it was necessary to end the violence, hostility, and terrorism and allow for discussions to resolve the disputes between them. Now to Iraq. The formed Iraqi Army graduated its 2nd Army Battalion today. The graduation ceremony coincides with the anniversary of forming the Iraqi Army in 1921. The current president of the Iraqi Governing Council, Adnan al-Patachi, attended the ceremony. A number of council members and coalition officers were also in attendance.
At the Taji camp, about 10 miles north of Baghdad, a graduation ceremony was held for the 2nd Battalion of the new Iraqi Army. The current president of the Iraqi Governing Council, Adnan al-Patachi, and a number of council members, as well as coalition and Iraqi officers, attended the ceremony. From a distance, al-Patachi was observing the soldiers marching.
Of course, this is a new army. It is the continuation of the Iraqi army. They are professionals. And this army will not be a tool to oppress the people. Rather, they are here to defend the country. This army will be administered by the elected Iraqi government.
The graduating battalion of 700 soldiers participated in a military show. They are graduating on the anniversary commemorating the creation of the Iraqi army. They received 2 months of training from the final military company. Many hope that this battalion will be the beginning of a strong Iraqi army capable of defending the country.
The training was given by the Americans. The trainers were very good. The training was 100% effective. We achieved our goals, and there was very good communication between us and the trainers.
A new army battalion is coming to life in Iraq, graduating on the anniversary of creating the Iraqi army in 1921. But where is the Iraqi army? The 83-year-old Iraqi army, which is one of the oldest Arab armies, is just being remembered. More than 1 million Iraqi soldiers were either killed during war or are now fugitives with an unknown future. Hamza Hussein, Abu Dhabi Television. The Taji camp, northern Baghdad.
French Foreign Ministry spokesman announced Tuesday that 2 French nationals were killed and a third wounded in a drive-by shooting late Monday in the rest of Iraqi town of Fallujah. Meanwhile, 1 Iraqi was killed and 3 others were injured in an explosion in the northern town of Tikrit. Meanwhile, Iraqi police confirmed that U.S. occupation soldiers killed a whole family in a car last Saturday, and the U.S. Army is to extend the tours of duty for thousands of soldiers in Iraq.
1 Iraqi civilian was killed and 3 others were injured, including a woman, Tuesday, when an explosive device detonated as their vehicle was passing on a road in the northern town of Tikrit. Iraqi police officials said that the injured were in a critical condition. Separately, Iraqi police said that the U.S. occupation army killed a whole family in a car near Tikrit last Saturday. A police chief investigator said 4 people were killed, 2 men, a woman, and a 9-year-old boy. A 5th man who survived was taken to Tikrit hospital, confirmed that the car was fired on by a U.S. Army convoy. Meanwhile, U.S. troops have rounded up 42 people on the latest raids targeting Saddam Hussein loyalists and foreign fighters north and west of Baghdad. The U.S. Army conducted sweeps of suspected foreign fighters' camps along the Syrian border and captured 4 individuals, one of whom the soldiers had on a wanted list. The military said it had arrested 20 people around the western Al-Anbar province, home to the restive towns of Ramadi and Fallujah. And to the north of the capital, the army captured 22 suspects in a zone encompassing Saddam's hometown of Tikrit. In another development, the U.S. military has released 3 Iraqis working for Reuters and 1 employed by the U.S. network NBC after detaining them last week following the downing of a U.S. helicopter near Fallujah. Reuters described its team as shaken and exhausted after their 3-day detention, which ended Monday. Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, the occupation's deputy director of operations, had earlier told reporters that 5 people wearing black vests, marked press, pulled up at the scene of the crash and began firing rocket-propelled grenades, adding that they were chased by U.S. troops who captured 4 of them. Reuters later said 3 of its employees had been detained by U.S. troops at the crash site and had earlier been shot at by U.S. soldiers. Despite this clear confusion among occupation forces, the U.S. Army has decided to extend the tours of some 7,000 soldiers in Iraq who were due to end their service or retire before their units return home. Under a so-called stop-loss, stop-movement order that is expected to go into effect soon, those soldiers would be required to remain in service for up to 90 days after their units return to their home base in the United States or Europe.
3 U.S. Army soldiers have been found guilty of mistreating Iraqi detainees at a prisoner of war camp in Iraq and ordered discharged from the service. The charges stemmed from an incident on May 12th at Camp Buka in Iraq, in which at least 1 detainee was held down while soldiers beat and kicked him at the urging of the superior, Master Sergeant Lisa Gurman. Gurman, Scott McKenzie, and Timothy Kanjar were found guilty of dereliction of duty and maltreatment of an Iraqi detainee by dragging him by his armpits, throwing him on the ground, and stepping on his previously injured arm and twisting it. The number of Iraqi detainees who are being subjected to such abuse is still unclear. In occupied Palestine, Palestinian Chairman Yasser Arafat said Tuesday Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon does not want peace, speaking after Sharon again threatened unilateral measures to separate the Jewish state from the Palestinians.
Palestinian Chairman Yasser Arafat said Tuesday Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon does not want peace, but rather wants to continue to build a separation wall and to conduct military operations. Arafat also played down the dismantlement of so-called drug settlements announced by Sharon, saying removing 1 mobile home here and another one there is nothing more than a trick. Arafat was speaking after Sharon again threatened unilateral measures to separate the Jewish state from the Palestinians.
If within a few months it turns out that we don't have a partner, that the Palestinians insist on rejecting our hand, if they continue their terror attacks, we will have to act by ourselves with a full coordination with our allies, especially the United States. In the absence of a Palestinian partner, my plan, the separation plan, is the best security plan that we have. This is my plan and I will see it carried out. This is my plan and I will see it carried out.
Meanwhile, Israeli Justice Minister Tommy Lapid warned an international boycott similar to that endured by apartheid-era South Africa should Israel not review the wall's routing, referring to parts of the separation wall which loop away from the West Bank boundary.
We are considered with the International Court in Hague. We are afraid that they may judge against us, and this may be taken to the United Nations and cause uproar, which may bring measures against Israel. All this, of course, is a result of Muslim and Arab anti-Israeli propaganda, but we should do nothing to give support to this type of anti-Israeli action.
On the Palestinian front, Palestinian Foreign Minister Nabil Shas is on a European tour for talks on the current situation in the Middle East and the implementation of the roadmap. After meeting with his French counterpart Dominique de Villepin, Nabil Shas said the European Union and France in particular should play a key role in the Middle East peace process, but stressed that France's role was overshadowed by the Americans' role on the ground.
But I can see also that in an election year, that Europe, an American election year, that Europe has the opportunity and the absolute requirement that it plays a more active role. A more active role in getting the peace process, in enforcing a ceasefire, in stopping the building of the wall, in installing observers on the ground. All of these are important roles that come out of the roadmap.
Yasser Abdrabbo, a senior PLO member, warned that the barrier will drive the whole region yet again into a new cycle of violence. Abdrabbo urged on the international community Monday to strongly condemn the construction of the apartheid wall and to exert whatever pressure or influence on the Israeli government to stop this quote, systematic process of blowing up every chance for peace.
Palestinians in the West Bank town of Nablus on Tuesday surveyed the aftermath of an Israeli occupation sweep through the city, which has taken place over the past 3 weeks. Israeli troops are still continuing their operation in the city, where occupation troops redeployed. On Monday, Israeli troops killed a Palestinian youth and wounded another in a Lain refugee camp near Nablus. And Israeli troops killed 17 Palestinians in the aggression and left behind wide-scale destruction, mainly in Nablus's Old City area. Meanwhile, 2 Israeli occupation troops were wounded in the Old City. And Israeli occupation troops also penetrated Monday night into the city of Tamun near Jenin and imposed a curfew in the city following confrontations between the citizens and the Israeli troops.
President Hosni Mubarak inspected on Tuesday a number of projects in the new Burj Al Arab city southwest of the Mediterranean port city of Alexandria. Nihal Saad accompanied the president on his tour and filed in this report.
In the industrial city of Burj Al Arab, 60 kilometers south of Alexandria, President Hosni Mubarak instructed the Prime Minister to accelerate drafting the Incentives Investments Law and submit it to the People's Assembly for ratification. The law aims at boosting investments and increasing facilities offered to investors. The President also gave directives to the Chairman of the Investments Authority to speed up measures leading to creating a system whereby investors deal with one single authority, namely the Investments Authority. Mubarak toured a number of factories in Burj Al Arab, starting with the Egyptian company for food products Faragalla, consisting of 18 factories with investments worth 1,750,000 Egyptian pounds. The company's exports reached 350,000 million Egyptian pounds, targeting markets in Korea and Japan and the European Union countries, in addition to local consumption.
The city of Burj Al Arab was built in 1988. It now encompasses more than 400 factories employing 31,000 workers and investments worth 900 million Egyptian pounds. Nihal Saad, Manar TV International, Burj Al Arab.
Iran on Tuesday lifted a key obstacle to a renewal of relations with Egypt and said full diplomatic ties would be restored within days. Iran's Vice President Mohammed Ali Abtahi told an Arabic news channel that relations would be resumed in the coming days, but Egypt was more cautious, saying it was too early to call. Foreign Minister Ahmed Meher said that relations between the two countries were on the right track, but no decision has been taken for the moment for the renewal. He said, however, that contacts were continuing between the two sides and were progressing in the right direction since a meeting between President Hosni Mubarak and his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Khatami in Geneva in December. Full diplomatic ties between Iran and Egypt were severed in 1979. Tehran City Council on Tuesday agreed to a foreign ministry demand to rename a Tehran street bearing the name of Khalid al-Islambuli, the assassin of former Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. The street name has been one of the several major sticking points with Egypt, the only Arab state with which Iran does not have normalized relations. Maher called the municipality's decision a positive step, but added that more was needed before full diplomatic relations are established.
In this regard years ago. And he is continuing to call other countries to force the Israelis.
A French official said that French experts taking part in the search operation for victims of the weekend plane crash off the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh had caught a signal which could have been from the black boxes. He added, however, that they had not located these boxes. The director of Sharm el-Sheikh Search and Rescue said the signal had been located at a depth of 1,150 meters, which would put it beyond the reach of a French submersible robot brought to retrieve the device. A French admiral said the French Navy does not have the right equipment at the scene to recover the flight recorders from the depth of the sea. Meanwhile, a spokesman for French Foreign Minister Dominique de Villepin said that France's top diplomat would represent the French government at ceremonies in Egypt later this week in honor of the 148 people killed in the crash. De Villepin, scheduled to leave for Egypt on Wednesday, will attend two memorial ceremonies on Thursday in the Egyptian resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, one on the water at the crash site and the second on land. The relatives of those killed were also due to leave on Wednesday. Deputies in France's lower house of parliament, the National Assembly, observed a minute of silence on Tuesday in honor of the plane crash victims.
What is the work? So to search for what we have to look for and to organize a bit.
Palestinian President Yasser Arafat accused Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon of not wanting peace on Tuesday after the Israeli Premier again threatened unilateral measures to separate Israel from the Palestinians. Arafat told reporters in his office in Ramallah that he thought Sharon does not want peace. He wants to continue to build a wall and to conduct military operations. He also played down the dismantlement of certain illegal Jewish settlements announced by Sharon, calling it nothing more than a trick. In a speech on Monday night to his Likud party, Sharon reaffirmed his commitment to the internationally drafted peace roadmap and the creation of a Palestinian state, which would involve the uprooting of Israeli settlements. But he reiterated that he would not hesitate to follow his disengagement plan should the Palestinians fail to crack down on factions carrying out anti-Israeli attacks. A military convoy was attacked on a highway 30 kilometers west of Baghdad on Tuesday while escorting aid out of the capital. A truck carrying aid donated by Saudi Arabia was hit, and according to an eyewitness, 2 people were killed. The coalition provisional authorities have not yet released an official report on the incident, but a U.S. chief intelligence officer has identified the area west of Baghdad between the cities of Ramadi and Fallujah as one of 4 major hotspots for attacks on U.S. military convoys in Iraq. France, meanwhile, reported that 2 of its nationals had been killed and the 3rd wounded in a drive-by shooting in Fallujah, west of Baghdad. Meanwhile, Iraqi police clashed in Basra with soldiers from Saddam Hussein's dissolved Iraqi army who were protesting to demand that the US-led coalition honor their unpaid salaries. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad arrived in Istanbul on Tuesday on the first ever visit to Turkey by a Syrian head of state since Syria became independent in 1946. The visit caps a string of smaller steps to repair relations following years of animosity. The visit also comes as Turkey and Syria, which both border Iraq, have become increasingly concerned that Kurds in northern Iraq could aspire to independence, a move that both countries have said they would strongly oppose. Al-Assad met with his Turkish counterpart Ahmed Necdet Sezer on Tuesday and is scheduled to meet Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan and other senior Turkish officials. Pakistan and India have issued a joint statement saying they would resume formal peace talks next month. They said the dialogue would include talks over Kashmir, where tens of thousands of people have died in a bloody secessionist war in the Indian part of the territory since 1989. United Nations Chief Kofi Annan hailed the summit meeting in Islamabad and said he hoped the meeting would help stabilize the region. The joint statement, however, evoked angry reactions from militant groups and hardliners.
Kashmiri militant groups and hardliners vowed to continue fighting Indian rule on Tuesday, expressing outrage at Pakistan's agreement with India to work towards a solution in the divided region. The head of Hizb al-Mujahideen, the biggest pro-Pakistan Kashmiri group fighting in Indian Kashmir, said they would continue their assaults. They added that they would announce a ceasefire only if India accepts Kashmir as a disputed territory, frees all prisoners, stops its crackdown, and withdraws its army to barracks. The Pakistan-based wing of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, which seeks a Kashmir independent of both India and Pakistan, called the agreement Pakistan's worst surrender. Tuesday's joint statement said Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf had assured Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee that he would not permit Pakistani territory to be used to support terrorism. Pakistan and India both hold part of Kashmir but claim the whole region. Pakistan had long demanded a vote in Kashmir in line with post-independence UN resolutions, but Musharraf said last month that Pakistan was ready to seek other options if India showed flexibility.
U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell said on Tuesday a North Korean offer to suspend its nuclear power program was a positive step that might help lead to new six-party talks on ending its nuclear weapons programs. Meanwhile, a group of prominent Americans set off for North Korea on Tuesday, where it may be allowed to visit the Yongbyon nuclear complex, believed to be part of a suspected North Korean nuclear arms program. A visit to Yongbyon would mark the first time outsiders have been allowed into the complex since UN inspectors were expelled a year ago at the start of the latest US-North Korean confrontation over North Korean nuclear ambitions. In another development, the South Korean foreign minister said six-country talks on North Korea's nuclear crisis may be put off until February because of numerous holidays. China, Japan, Russia, South Korea and the United States have been trying to get North Korea to return to the table for negotiations to follow up an inconclusive round of talks in Beijing last August. At least 15 people, including 8 children, were killed and 11 others were injured after a large bomb exploded outside an army barracks in the southern Afghan city of Kandahar. An eyewitness said there had been a small explosion in which a child was injured, followed by what he called the big explosion that caused the rest of casualties. Afghan President Hamid Karzai condemned the attack as a barbaric act and said it would only strengthen his resolve to fight terrorism in Afghanistan. The explosion came just 2 days after a new constitution was adopted in Kabul that war-weary Afghans hope will set the country on the road to recovery after nearly 25 years of bloodshed. Suspicion immediately fell on remnants of the ousted Taliban linked to much of the violence in Afghanistan in recent months, but a Taliban spokesman denied any involvement. Kabul houses an Afghan commando unit working with US forces to hunt down Taliban and Al-Qaeda members.
Turkey is the first Muslim country that recognized the Israeli state when it was established in 1948. After the two countries signed a defense cooperation treaty in 1996, Turkey became the only regional ally of Israel. Ankara also cooperates with Tel Aviv in sharing intelligence, and now the Israeli Minister of Interior signed a new agreement during his visit to Turkey with the objective of coordinating with Israeli and Turkish border police units. Training will start in the next few months. These old Israeli and Turkish relations, which have been strengthened by military and economic agreements, angered Arab countries as well as Iran. However, Damascus, in particular, is extremely sensitive to this issue, especially considering its geographic location and the nature of its relations with Ankara. Nevertheless, these relations are gradually improving. The visit of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to Ankara sets a precedent and forms a turning point in the Syrian and Turkish relations.
On the surface, it seems that the visit of the Israeli Internal Security Minister, Zahi Hanagbi, to Ankara was intended to conclude a new security agreement. However, it also gave the Justice and Development Party an opportunity to play a role in the Palestinian conflict after 1 year of neglect. Turkey's Interior Minister Abdelkadir Aksu and Israel's Public Security Minister Zahi Hanagbi signed the Security Cooperation Protocol only a few days after signing a similar protocol with the Syrian Minister of Interior. This indicates that Israel is uncomfortable with the fact that the Turkish and Syrian relations are improving, especially at this stage, as Israel and the US accuse Syria of supporting terrorism. The Israeli minister also took advantage of signing the security protocol ceremony with Abdelkader Aksu to criticize Ankara for cooperating with Damascus, saying that his government is disappointed because the Syrian leadership did not change its policy towards the Palestinian conflict. However, he proposed that Turkey mediate between Tel Aviv and Damascus, which was viewed by observers as an Israeli attempt to spoil the first visit of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to Turkey.
We expect Turkey, which is a close friend to Israel and Syria, to play a mediation role and convince Syria of the importance of negotiating with Israel. Negotiations will achieve the goals of the two countries and will enable us to coexist. Also, Turkey can convince Syria to stop supporting terrorist organizations, which would serve international interests as well.
Turkish officials praised the Turkish and Syrian security cooperation agreement. At the same time, they accepted the Israeli proposal, which suggests that Turkey wants to counterbalance relations with Tel Aviv to establish relations with Syria and the future Palestinian state. The Israeli Internal Security Minister Zahi Hanagbi talked about issues beyond the authority of his ministry. In response, the Turkish Foreign Minister Abdullah Gül hosted members of the Palestinian Industry and Trade Union in the Turkish Foreign Ministry headquarters. Obviously, he went out of the diplomatic norms by hosting the Palestinian delegates and discussing issues beyond the authority of his ministry. Gül developed a new plan to divert Turkish aid directly to the Palestinians under the title of Immediate Aid Intervention.
We will try to develop a new strategy to achieve our goal by working and coordinating our efforts directly with non-governmental organizations. Thus, we may achieve a larger success in utilizing expertise and resources that are available to us and the Palestinians.
Meeting with the Palestinians reflects that Turkey is now paying attention to a central issue that preoccupies ordinary Turks. The meeting also eases criticism against the Justice and Development Party because it neglects the Palestinians and did not play a leading role in defending their plight. Political observers view the visit of the Israeli Internal Security Minister Zahi Hanagbi to Ankara as an attempt to prevent improving the Turkish and Syrian relations. However, these relations are expected to deepen at the strategic level, beginning with the current visit of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to Turkey.
Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, which promotes journalism excellence worldwide and invests in the vitality of 26 U.S. communities, and the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation and Henry and Virgilia Dakin.